Hey everybody, naturalist David Mizejewski with the National Wildlife Federation. Today I want to talk to you about something that I think we can all do during this pandemic to de-stress and get connected to nature. Before I dive into that, I want to make sure to remind everybody to please take all of the precautions very seriously while we're under this pandemic. That means practicing social distancing, physical distancing. It means staying at home as much as possible, not gathering with other people. It means washing your hands militantly many times throughout the day for at least 20 seconds with soapy water. Just follow all of those best practices and recommendations from places like the CDC and the WHO. If we all do those things together, we're going to get through this pandemic quicker with the least amount of people getting sick. So with that reminder, today I want to talk to you about how getting outside gardening is a way that we can all spend some of our time that we now have on our hands from social distancing and staying close to home. And also as a way to kind of de-stress, as a way to get kids involved, doing something in a physical activity with their hands. And last but not least, as a way to help wildlife. Just because the pandemic is happening doesn't mean that wildlife still can't use our help. And for a lot of us, the act of helping the birds and the butterflies and other critters that live around us is actually something that helps us cope with all of the stress that we're under with the pandemic. So, spring is here, and it's a really great time to, think about your garden. Something simple that most of us can probably do right now, and you can do this with kids, it's actually a really fun thing to do with kids, is plant some seeds. Now, if you don't have plant seeds, and these could be wildflower seeds, these could be herb seeds. A lot of us who are into gardening always have a supply of them around from last season that are probably still viable. But if you don't have your supply handy, think about going outside, and if you didn't cut down all your seed heads from all of your plants last fall, which by the way is a good thing to do because those are a food source for birds and other animals throughout the winter and into the early spring. Maybe you can collect some of those right now from things like purple coneflowers and black-eyed Susans and lots of other native wildflowers, and you can plant them, and they should germinate. If you maybe have pots lying around, you could do this in container gardens, and this is good to do if you, again, don't have your own yard or garden space. You can sow them right into the ground. But a fun thing to do, especially, again, with kids, is to get little cups. Again, a lot of us have these already in our house, little paper cups or any kind of small container. And you can start these seeds indoors in a sunny windowsill and wait for them to germinate, and you can kind of watch them grow into tiny little seedlings, and then ultimately when the danger of frost has passed, you can plant those in the ground. So just, one very simple thing that all of us can do, and again, the idea of nurturing something and watching new life grow, I think personally, is something that can be very uplifting. So that's one idea, just plant some seeds. The other way that you can get seeds, of course, is to order them. A lot of plant companies and seed companies, practice their business via the mail. And so you just can order some seed packets. I would recommend ordering some sunflower seeds. These are easy to grow. You can pretty much plant them anywhere around the country. They're actually based on our native annual sunflower. And so they have a lot of wildlife value too. When they bloom, pollinators like bees will come and get nectar. And then when they go to seed in the late summer and early fall, they become a really important food source for a lot of songbirds. So sunflowers are a great starter plant that you can do this with. But again, any kind of herb, parsley, dill, things like that are easy to grow in a little cup on a windowsill that you would then transplant into the ground or into a bigger pot. If you're not into actually planting right now, or you just don't have the ability to plant some seeds, another thing you can do that's very simple and also very distracting from the stress of the world is just begin planning what you want to do in your garden. Again, you probably can't go out to the garden center right now. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but you can be spending a lot of your time thinking about the ways that you might want to enhance your yard or other garden space to make it more beautiful, to make it, maybe to plant a vegetable or herb garden to grow your own food, and of course, to create a wildlife habitat garden. That's something that we talk a lot about at the National Wildlife Federation, and in fact, we've got a whole program called Garden for Wildlife that we'll link to in the comments below. But at any rate, now's a great time to start planning. Maybe there's an area of lawn that you might want to consider converting into a butterfly garden. to support monarch butterflies, which are declining, and lots of other really cool butterfly species. Or maybe a broader pollinator garden to help not only the butterflies, but bees as well. You can get some graph paper or any scrap paper and start, mapping out and graphing and coming up with plant lists. You can do a lot of online research. In fact, the National Wildlife Federation's Garden for Wildlife website is a treasure trove of information, and we even have something called the Native Plant Finder there, where you can put in your zip code and you'll get a list in ranked order of importance of the native plants that are going to support the caterpillars of butterflies and moths, which are important wildlife that you want to support and attract, but they're also critically important food for birds. 96% of our backyard birds feed their babies a diet exclusively of insects, and that's mostly caterpillars. So you can get a list of those plants that, again, you can use for planting purposes. You, again, might be able to mail order some of these right now. Or again, you can just make your wish list right now. And then when the pandemic, the worst of it's over, and we can go out back to the stores and the garden centers, you can begin, kind of buying those plants to put them in your yard. So I mentioned our Garden for Wildlife website. So that's a great place to go. Again, we'll put a link to that below. The other thing that I wanted to talk about too is what nurseries and garden centers are doing right now. A lot of them are shut down, but some of them are still operating and doing things like curbside pickup. So I would definitely recommend just giving your local nursery a call or garden center and see if that's something that's an option. If you really do, need to get out and practicing good social and physical distancing when you do it, something to look into if you really do want to go out and actually get some plant material or potting soil or something like that. Native plant societies are another great resource that might be doing things like that, seed swaps, and again, things where there can be doorside drop-off or curbside pickup so you're not getting close to other people, and garden clubs as well. So hopefully some of these tips you'll find useful, and you'll get outdoors a little bit in your own space, again, practicing good social distancing to get a little bit of fresh air, a little bit of sunshine. These things are really, really therapeutic, especially when we're also stressed, just trying to deal with the pandemic right now. And again, we'll put links to all of the things that I talked about below so that you can easily get to even more resources. So until next time, happy spring. Try to focus on the positive, keep safe, practice social distancing. I'm going to say it one more time because it's that important. Wash your hands, and together we'll get through this.